good morning, everyone. Good morning, women around the world. I am Carla Scipio, one of the founders of the Women in My Garden. This is a space where women come together and they share their life story. They share their journey. And we say not a journey of challenge, but a journey of triumph, things that they've overcome in the hopes of motivating and inspiring other women that they too can live and walk and not just live, not survive, but actually thrive. Today we have Audrey Thomas Esquire. Um, Audrey's gonna come on, and she's a flower as well in my garden. And she's gonna tell us at the end what type of flower she is. She's gonna share her story of triumph today from Jamaica to the United States and how she has overcome. When I tell you she has overcome many challenges with her head held high and a story to tell. So, Audrey, go ahead and just tell me a little bit about you. You can share as it relates to your move from Jamaica to the United States and how those early years looked and how it molded you and helped you put you onto this journey of being an attorney.
Well, I'm 54. I am the mother of 9 children, 6 girls, 3 boys, 7 grandchildren.
Bless your
I
heart.
am currently forcefully retired in that uh, on November 9th, sorry, 2022, my law license was revoked. But I still bear the title Esquire because I have been and will always be an attorney for over 22 years. Pretty much, I'm an immigrant. I came here from Jamaica, West Indies. When I was 10 years old, I was smuggled into this country. I gained my green card through Ronald Reagan's amnesty program, which is why, up until the time Obama ran, I always voted Republican because they're the reasons why I became a citizen. And I wanted to show my regards and gratitude. Um, Pretty much that's about me in a nutshell. I have overcome much. I hold several degrees, and right now I'm pursuing my PhD in psychology.
Ooh, thank you so much. Thank you. Audrey, I know your migrant story and how you talked about your children and grandchildren, but tell us a little bit about the men and women that were involved in your early life, how they helped Audrey of today.
I always say that one of the things that I'm grateful for is I'm an average human being who has had exceptional love and support. And I wouldn't be the woman that I am today without that love and support, without the garden, if you will. My garden was filled with men and women who poured into me. And one of the things that I don't like to maybe disparage anyone because some of them are Christians now, but I grew up with a lot of drug dealers. They were drug dealers. They did what they thought they had to do to create a life here, and they were also entrepreneurs. They were my upbringing ran the gamut. I had pilots, merchants, nurses, you name it. I was socialized by it sufficiently enough that it had an impact on my life.
Hmm.
And so I am what you would call a Renaissance woman, if you will, because I've had all of these influences. I was able to see all of the different roads that one could take to become the woman that I am.
It is ironic that you said that because, when we tell our story, our past is our past and we can never replace our past. We can never take it back. Of course, there are things that we may look back and say, well, I'm not proud of it right now, but there are things that we had to do as a community in order for us to get ahead. And when you think about those people who sold drugs, that's a skill. But sometimes
Yes.
when you have nothing else to do to gain, to come up, to level up your family or to feed your family, um, that was something that you did. I'm not saying it was the best thing, but I want people to understand that, we're not here. We're here to have a conversation. What happened in the past happened in the past. But we're also gonna look and take the good and the bad out of the past, and say what it is, and use it to encourage others. So you
Yes.
talked about you talked about the men and the women in your lives, and the reason why I'm saying that too is because when I look around at the Caribbean community, I see, and as migrants coming to New York from, let's say, Trinidad or the Caribbean, we were exposed to a lot of things, and there were high expectations set for us. So tell me about the high expectations that was set for Audrey. How Audrey had to level up and make it happen.
Well, one of the high expectation was I knew that education was a path that I had to follow.
Hmm.
There was no if, ands, or buts about it. I was encouraged to understand that whatever my predecessors were doing was not something that would become my history, but instead that I had to make the decision to change the history and to create a new history and a new foundation for the future generations that would come from our lineage. And education was stressed to me. I was nurtured, I was cared for, I was provided for, but most of all, I was also taught to give back. I
Hmm.
was taught to love, I was taught to nurture, and I was taught to be a leader by the men who were area leaders.
Hmm.
I give you a funny story. I had an uncle. He's a dentist, but when I was a small child, what he would do was he would carry me on his shoulders and read the dictionary to me while he was walking me around the community. My job was to navigate to make sure he didn't fall in any pits or buck his toe or anything. That culminated in me having a very extensive vocabulary and loving reading. A lot of times we don't really think about how we impact children. But if you're telling a child as a punishment to go read a book, that child can never develop a love for books. You understand? But if
Yeah.
you're making reading a fundamental part of happiness and joy and love, you're making a child that's going to love to read. Up until about a year ago, I made it my business to read one book every week. It's because of the love that I was taught, the loving way in which I was taught to read. So that was extremely important for me in terms of my rearing.
That's good. That's excellent. So you said about the things that was poured into you and how you utilized it for the good and how it made you realize what your assignment was. How did you end up with law? Why not medicine? Because that's one of the things that they tend to push us. And I say I mean Caribbean parents. Then the aunties and your uncles and all the elders in the community. Why law, not medicine, or even business?
I knew that I was going to be a lawyer. I knew that I was going to be a lawyer from the time of my own self-awareness. As a child, I played court. I didn't play Dolly House.
Good.
I played court. Barbie sued Ken. There were always some court things, and they encouraged it. They encouraged it because I talked a lot, and they said the only job for you is to become a lawyer. They encouraged me by making it possible. When I wanted to play court, they were my judges, my jurors. They facilitated my upbringing. I had a wonderful childhood to the extent of these people, these men and women, and I'm talking hardcore, softcore, whatever the extreme was, they participated in my upbringing in a way that made it possible for me to love and have a passion for what I ultimately chose to become. I knew that I was going to be a lawyer from I was about maybe 6 years old.
Do you think they recognized something in you and they nurtured it? Was that the what was
Yes.
extended? Okay, was what was extended to you? Was it extended to your siblings or those
No,
around?
no. I was the one that was pressured to be a lawyer. My brother was pressured to be a inventor because he was so smart. He started college when he was 11 years old. He was he was encouraged to be an inventor. His job was to find a cure for cancer.
Right.
And
So, go ahead.
so we were all encouraged along the lines of our abilities. What they saw in us, they nurtured.
And that's a positive thing, and that's not always the thing that happens because usually they want you to be what they feel that you can make money off of and level up that way. But the fact that they encourage each child based on what they saw, the gifts and talents of that child, that's definitely a positive thing. So so tell us about your journey into law school. How did you get into law school? Which law school did you go to? Tell us about what happened in law in the
My
early
law
days.
school journey, my law school journey is this is the part of the program that you guys have to stay tuned to because it will inspire you. If you're a young person, it will inspire your children. I am an anomaly. They say they call me an enigma
Hmm.
because I had my first child at 15. I got pregnant at the age of 14. And of course, my family said, we're going to encourage you. You're still going to go along your journey. This will not be an impediment to your success. I got pregnant at the age of 14, had the child at 15, dropped out of high school at the age of 17 and took the GED, the general equivalency exam, passed it, and got my high school diploma at 17 through the GED. They allowed me to march with my class. If you look in the yearbook, you see me, but I didn't finish high school. I literally had to take the GED. From there, I ended up going to New York City Technical College
Hmm.
in a program for teen mothers. From New York City Technical College, I went to St. Francis College. I got my associates and my bachelor's from St. Francis College. I got a business degree from Blake Business School, and then I got a master's in public administration from Brooklyn College. And that's when I got accepted to St. John's University School of Law. My first semester there, I was put on probation because I failed just about every class. My second semester, I was expelled because I failed just about every class. I would not give up. I kept appealing, pleading, doing everything I could to get back in. I got back in and I was able to finish. The first two times I took the bar exam, I failed it. And I passed it on the third time. I took New Jersey. The first time I took New Jersey, I passed it. But that was an ordeal because I was 2 hours late for the class because I got lost and had to come back the second day to take the exam. It was such an ordeal, but I made it. I made it because the one thing that my upbringing taught me was to never give up and to never think that failure is your option.
Right. You said so much in those few minutes. Let me ask you another thing, because I know how did you said you have how many children? 9 children. Were you
9.
still? Did you have more kids while you were going to school? With the GD, with the New York City Technical College, with Brooklyn College, Blake. Did you have more children, or was it just that one?
By the time I was 22, I had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls.
So now
By the
you're a
time
mom
I
of
was
five.
22,
So mom of
my
five.
mother and I was going to school the whole time. I had Brianna when I was 22, and I had to drop out of school the last semester because I had something called polyhydramnios, where there was just way too much fluid in the bag,
Mhm.
and they were afraid the child would not survive. So I had to drop out. I dropped out, but I kept up with my studies and was able to take the exams and send them in, and the professors passed me. And
Mm.
that's how I graduated college in 1995.
Wow. That's an awesome
Yes.
story of resilience and tenacity, not giving up, not stopping at anything. So now tell us, and this is coming up to the nut and bolt of the story. We have to give you credit, kratos, for mastering motherhood. And I'm not sure what your your relations were you single or married, but mastering motherhood with these small children while going to school. So you graduated, you finally graduated, you passed the bars. What's the story after that? What happens after you
Well,
graduated?
I wasn't alone. My first child, I wasn't married to the father, but he was instrumental in the raising of the child because I'm very big on co-parenting. So he
Mm-hmm.
had aided me a lot with the child. With my second set of kids, I wasn't married. I was married 3 times, and I have 3 sets of children. My last set, twin girls, I had when I was in law school.
Mm-hmm.
I had when I well after law school actually. But I was married, but of course, obviously, because I was so driven, because I was always working full time and going to school full time, those things affect your relationship. My mother hired a nanny to come live in and take care of the children. So I didn't have to parent my children on my own because I had a live-in helper that cooked for them, bathed them, made sure that their homework was done. You know, I had mommy and me day with them individually and on the weekends, but for the most part, they were well cared for by the people that helped me. So when I graduated law school, I went to work for the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office as a prosecutor. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why I got that job is because Charles Hines on Saturdays, my at that time I had 7 children. By the time I got to law school, I had 7 children. My husband had been deported back to Jamaica because of crimes that he had committed when he was a young person. And then, of course, they passed Ira, and that made it back then in 1997, it made him deportable for past crimes. So they didn't care that we had 7 children. They deported him and left me to raise these on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now I used to have to bring the children to school with me on Saturdays because I didn't have a caretaker on Saturdays. The nanny only worked Monday to Friday. And Mr. Hines saw me with all these children. And because he saw me with all these children, he told me that he knew I couldn't interview for any jobs. So he hired me out of his class and gave me a job. And I used to bring the children with me to the Brooklyn District Attorney's office. I would bring them to court and have them sitting in the front row. And ironically enough, because of their experiences watching me be an attorney and working in my law firm, none of my children decided to become lawyers. I have
Mm-hmm.
my son is a molecular scientist. One of my daughters work for the UN. My other daughter works for Progressive. She's an executive over there. But none of them went into law because they all said they saw what the law did, how difficult it was for me, and they would not put themselves through that. When I left the Brooklyn District Attorney's office, I opened my own law firm because by then I had the twins and now I have 9 children, and the salary wasn't enough to sustain my lifestyle and the children. So I opened up my own law firm, and I had that law firm for 22 years.
Mm.
Yes.
So tell us, I just admired your fortitude and your strength. 9 women having to deal in law, having to deal with the affects of law, because how it's affected you and your family, having your significant other be deported back to Jamaica, and now here you standing as a black woman, um, just trying to make it happen. And we're so
Yes.
thankful for your. At least you have family. You had family in your corner to help you. And you know the determination of Caribbean parents is they win a medal. Um, you have your
Yes.
you have your law practice now. You're free. You're free to make your money. So what happened with the law practice? Because we're talking about disbarred.
Yes.
Let's talk
In
about.
2017, I did 2014, I did a joint venture with a family member where I started a radio program. I started writing books, and she and I started a company, and the goal was to sell the books, to basically make me the Jamaican Oprah is what they said that we were going for. We invested a lot of money in it. It didn't work out well, and she lost a lot of money. She became sick, and in 2017, her daughters sued me, and I participated in the lawsuit. They made a motion for summary judgment. It was denied. And at that point, the judge said to them, well, if you're suing this lawyer, she's a lawyer. Why haven't you gone to the Bar Association to file a grievance against her for all the losses your mother endured? And they
Well,
did. And of course, the standard is very low there. I fought them for some time, but in 2022, I got disbarred for what they call misappropriation of clients' funds. I appealed it. I lost the appeal. I was even arrested. It was just a vicious ordeal. The arrest culminated in me taking what is called a program. It's a deal where you have to go to treatment for 9 months, and then you have a conditional discharge for 3 years if you stay out of trouble. And then after 5 years, you can try to have the record sealed. But all of this happened very publicly. I mean, it was on the news, because at this point I'm a famous attorney. I'm handling a lot of famous clients. I handled the Sorokin case. I handled so many, high profile, the McDonald's case. I handled so many high profile cases that made the news. So I was what everyone knew me and knew who I was. I had the Thomas Empowerment Hour annual uh, humanitarian award show every year. So when that happened, I made the front page of so many different newspapers, especially in the Caribbean. The Gleaner carried a full story on me. And it was extremely embarrassing and humiliating for my children, for me, for everyone who loves me. And I had to overcome that. And of course, I lost my source of income. I lost my house. I lost my vehicles. I lost so much, and I had to rebuild. But I'm here today, and I'm rebuilt. I just got my own place again. I'm
yeah,
looking
cause
towards, yeah, I'm looking towards getting myself another vehicle, and I'm working my way back to success, because failure is not my option. I've overcome worse, and I will overcome this as well.
and you will, and you will. I have two questions for you. How did you make it through the darkest part of your journey? And only you alone knows the darkest part. And then, what advice would you give to another woman who has encountered something similar to yours? Or, and it doesn't even have to be similar, but who's gone through a dark period in their life?
My thing is, I wrote when I was first arrested. I shut in for 30 days, and I wrote 3 books. I wrote 3 books. I also found solace in community and family. I was never too ashamed to say I need help. I was never too ashamed to cry on someone's shoulder or to let someone be my strength. And I always advise people, men and women, don't give up. I thought about suicide. I thought about all of it. I've thought about it. I even attempted suicide when I was 15 because it was so much I was going through. What I learned from that experience is if I had succeeded in killing myself at 15, all of the things that I was able to accomplish to now age 54, I would never have accomplished. I am so glad that I survived suicide and I will never attempt it again. I am going to keep on trying. I encourage others to keep trying. And none of us makes it out alive, but how you choose to live, how you choose to reinvent yourself is vitally important. And the best way to do that is through community. I look to others. I have asked for help and I've never let shame become my plight. I tell myself shame is not of God, and so I don't let shame be a part of my portfolio. There's no shame in me. I am never too ashamed to say I just have to start over.
Yes. And
And that's what I've been doing.
you're a woman of faith. How has your faith sustained you?
It has sustained me because when I shut in, I prayed, I fasted, I read my Bible. I was the irony is I was telling someone I was born an ethnic Jew because my family immigrated from Germany to Jamaica to avoid the Holocaust. And I was raised Christian, and now I am literally watching my children. My daughter just converted to Islam, and I'm laughing because I'm saying we went from ethnic Jews to religious Christians now to Islam. And the one thing I can say consistently is we've maintained our foundation in religion. We've maintained our foundation in our faith. And I don't care what you're calling yourself, as long as you have faith, as long as you're praying, as long as you're fasting, as long as you're staying steadfast in in the word, it's okay. You will make it. You will make it.
So you believe your faith and your trust and your love in Jesus Christ helped you make it through to actually see light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe very strongly that if I didn't have that foundation, if I didn't have that foundation to trust that, listen, you got to be like Job. Job lost everything, but he never lost his faith.
Right.
If I
Most
didn't have that foundation, I think that at 52 years old, I would have felt the need to kill myself because I was all over the news. But I was
mm,
like, no, this too shall pass. And then
mm.
some other thing will pop itself up, and I'll survive that too.
So basically, you said that you come from a family of resilience and tenacity, running from the Holocaust in Germany. Because I was reading about that, and I also saw a lot of YouTube channels where they talked about Jews coming and living in the country of Jamaica
Yes,
and actually
yes,
building communities there. And then also from the enslavement of your African ancestors. So you know that you've come and you stand on the
yeah.
shoulders of men and women who made the best out of what they were given, they were handed.
Well, the good thing about my heritage is my African ancestors weren't enslaved because they're maroons. They took to the hills rather than be colonized.
Yeah.
So they really fought. So I come from a people who would rather run and fight and come back again than to let themselves be compromised. And that's a history that I was taught, and that history helped me to build.
Yes, yes, you most definitely stand on the shoulders of your ancestors. Now, tell me, which flower are you? What kind of flower are you?
I liken myself to a rose. I'm pretty, I smell great, but I have some thorns that will protect me from everything foreign and domestic.
All right, Audrey. Audrey A. Thomas Esquire. Look for Audrey. Look for her books. Look for what you. If they want to reach out to you, how can they contact you?
www.disbarred1109.com. That's DISBARRED 1109.com. That's the website. I again reinvented myself by creating a company called Disbarred1109.com Inc. And I've been using that as my platform of resilience and reinventing oneself as someone new.
Thank you so much, and we definitely thank you for coming on and sharing your story of courage, of tenacity, of resilience, and also a journey of faith. So we appreciate
Yes.
you. Thank you for being that rose in our garden, and hopefully we'll see you again where you can talk about the Maroons and also the German Jews, your
Yes.
history. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
You
day.
you do the same. Bye bye.